The summit of Mount Palomar stands as a lonely sentinel against the encroaching tide of the Pacific night. In the year 1950, the air here carries a weight that feels older than the civilization clinging to the slopes below. It is a dry, thin cold that seeps through wool and skin, settling into the marrow of the bones. Inside the Great Dome, the silence is not an absence of sound, but a heavy, pressurized presence, broken only by the rhythmic mechanical heartbeat of the clock drive. This massive machinery, a triumph of gears and precision, fights the very rotation of the Earth to keep the great glass eye fixed upon a single point in the infinite black. The 200-inch Hale telescope, the most powerful instrument ever conceived by the mind of man at this point in history, points toward the constellation of Serpens, drinking in the faint ancient light of a universe that does not yet know it is being watched. Arthur Hoag moves through this sanctuary with the practiced grace of a man who has spent his life in the shadows of giants. The darkroom is his inner sanctum, a place where the light of distant suns is finely trapped and rendered onto sheets of glass. The air here is thick with the acrid metallic tang of silver nitrate and the sharp, vinegar-like sting of developing fluids. There is a tactile reality to this era of exploration that modern digital sensors cannot replicate. Every image is a physical object, a thin pane of glass coated in a sensitive emulsion that has captured photons that have travelled for hundreds of millions of years. Hoag's hands, stained by the chemistry of his craft, lift a fresh plate from the fixative bath. He rinses the glass, the water cascading over the captured stars like a river over diamonds, and waits for the moment of clarity. He brings the magnifying lens to his eye, leaning over the light box where the negative glows with an eerie inverted radiance. Stars appear as sharp, black pinpricks against a stark white void. He expects to find the familiar, the elegant sweeping arms of a spiral galaxy, or the soft, featureless glow of an elliptical cluster. These are the citizens of the Hubble sequence, the orderly residents of the cosmic neighbourhood that follow the rules established by the giants of the early 20th century. But as his gaze traverses the plate, he pauses. There, nestled in the deep field, sits a ghost that breaks every rule of the garden. It is a perfect circle of blue fire, suspended in the vacuum like a discarded wedding ring of a forgotten god. At its centre lies a solitary golden nucleus, a dense ball of ancient light that seems entirely disconnected from the luminous halo surrounding it. Between the heart and the ring there is nothing. No bridges of dust, no faint spiral arms, no structural debris to explain how the two components remain bound to one another. It is an architectural impossibility, a defiance of every law of celestial mechanics. In a universe governed by the graceful curves of gravity and the centrifugal sprawl of rotating gas, this object stands as a geometric anomaly. It possesses a symmetry that feels deliberate, yet its existence suggests a catastrophic or miraculous origin that defies simple calculation. The sight sends a shiver through the observer that has nothing to do with the mountain chill. This is a heresy of form. Hoag looks again, perhaps expecting the smudge to resolve into a more conventional shape, but the ring remains, a sharp sapphire perimeter enclosing a void of nearly 30,000 light-years of absolute darkness. The golden core at the centre sits like a king in an empty castle, surrounded by a moat of nothingness that spans a distance wider than the Milky Way's own heart. The blue ring, populated by massive short-lived suns, screams with the light of new birth, while the yellow centre whispers with the exhaustion of 10 billion years of stellar life. They are two different ages of the universe, locked in a dance across a chasm that should not be crossable. The physics of 1950 offer no easy harbour for such a find. To the astronomers of the day, a galaxy is a cohesive unit, a machine of stars held together by visible gears. This object, which would come to be known as Hoag's object, is a machine with its guts ripped out, yet it continues to function with a terrifying precision. It sits 600 million light-years away, a silent witness to a process of creation or destruction that remains invisible to the telescopes of men. As Hoag records his findings, the weight of the unknown settles over the observatory. He has not merely found a new star or a distant nebula, he has found a fracture in the map of the cosmos, a place where the rules of the garden no longer apply. the discovery challenges the very foundations of how the grandest structures in the vacuum are built. If galaxies are born from the slow collapse of gas clouds, how can a ring exist without a disk? If they are formed by the collision of titans, where is the wreckage? The photographic plate held in Hoag's hands is more than a record of light. It is a testament to the fact that the universe still harbours secrets that can render our greatest theories obsolete in a single night. The mountain air remains cold, and the chemicals continue to sting his eyes, but the world Arthur Hoag stepped out of is no longer the one he inhabits. He has seen the eye of the Creator looking back from the Serpens void, and the silence of the observatory has never felt more profound. In the middle decades of the 20th century, the cosmos was being transformed from a chaotic wilderness into a place of burgeoning structured order. Edwin Hubble had recently carved the infinite variety of the heavens into a sequence as rigid and reliable as the periodic table of elements. To the astronomers of this era, the sky was a grand, curated gallery, and every island of stars had its designated place within a specific, well-defined drawer. This was the era of the Great Taxonomy, a time when the human mind sought to tame the light of the deep by forcing it into categories of form and function. This orderly garden of galaxies followed a path known as the tuning fork diagram, a roadmap of cosmic evolution that seemed to explain the life story of every structure in the vacuum. On one side of this celestial ledger stood the ellipticals. These were the stoic elders of the universe, monolithic and smooth, appearing as soft, featureless clouds of amber radiance. They were vast, ancient swarms of red and yellow suns that had long ago exhausted their reservoirs of gas and dust, settling into stable, spherical or flattened shapes where the fires of creation had dimmed to a steady, eternal glow. They represented a state of cosmic equilibrium, a finality of form where the turbulence of youth had been replaced by the quiet gravity of the age. In the Hubble sequence, they were the beginning of the story, the foundation upon which the rest of the universe was measured. Opposite these ancient giants were the spirals, the vibrant, spinning pinwheels of the deep. These were the engines of change, their long curving arms thick with the dark, fertile soot of interstellar dust and the brilliant, hot sparks of newborn stars. They were the youths of the cosmos, rotating with a grace that followed the fundamental laws of fluid dynamics. Within their arms, waves of pressure compressed gas into new suns, creating a shimmering tapestry of blue and pink light that spoke of a universe still in the throes of birth. Some of these spirals possessed a central bar, a rigid beam of stellar material cutting through their hearts like the axle of a great machine, adding a layer of structural complexity that seemed to confirm the universe was a place of engineering and predictable mechanics. Between these two extremes lay the lenticular galaxies, the transitionary forms that bridged the gap between the featureless ellipticals and the structured spirals. This was the Hubble order, a hierarchy that allowed an observer to look at a distant smudge of light and immediately understand its history, its age, and its likely destiny. To find a galaxy was to categorize it, and to categorize it was to possess a sense of mastery over the infinite. The universe was seen as a predictable machine, moving from one stage of the tuning fork to the next with the inevitability of a clock. Into this manicured garden, the discovery of Arthur Hoag arrived like a jagged lightning bolt, shattering the glass of the display cases. It was a shape that refused the very concept of the taxonomy. It possessed the smooth, golden heart of an ancient elliptical, yet it was surrounded by a fierce blue perimeter of starbirth that belonged to the younger spirals. Most disturbingly, the two components were separated by a gap of absolute nothingness, a mote of darkness that lacked the arms, the bars, or the bridges of dust that were required by the laws of galactic architecture. It was a ring, a perfect detached halo of stolen fire that existed in a state of impossible isolation. In the rigid scientific hierarchy of the 1950s, such a form was more than a mere mystery. It was a structural heresy. It suggested that the universe could build grand masterpieces that bypassed the established rules of evolution. If a galaxy could exist as a core and a ring with nothing but a void between them, then the entire narrative of galactic formation, the slow, orderly progression from gas cloud to rotating disk, was incomplete. Hoag's object stood as a weed of impossible beauty, thriving in a crack in the pavement of human knowledge. It was a singular anomaly that mocked the drawers of classification. While every other observed galaxy followed the predictable paths of the tuning fork, this ring floated in the Serpens constellation as a silent protest against the human desire for a simple, unified theory of everything. The impact of this discovery on the scientific mind was profound. The mid-century astronomer relied on symmetry and logical progression. They looked for the missing links, the transitional forms that would explain how one shape became another over the eons. But there was no transition for a ring of this nature. It did not belong to the past, and it did not point toward a recognizable future. It was a structural outlier, a ghost that haunted the clean lines of the Hubble sequence. It served as a reminder that the cosmos is under no obligation to be legible, or to fit within the narrow confines of human definitions. The heretical shape of Hoag's object proved that for all our maps and all our sequences, the universe remains a place of profound accidents and beautiful secrets that refuse to be filed away. The garden was no longer orderly. It was a place where a single, impossible ring could challenge the foundations of everything we thought we knew about the architecture of the stars. The decades that followed the initial sighting were defined by a quiet, persistent war between the evidence on the glass and the expectations of the mind. In the halls of the great universities and within the pages of the leading journals of the 1950s and 1960s, the object was treated not as a revelation, but as a nuisance. It was a glitch in the cosmic record, a stutter in the otherwise smooth prose of the universe. The scientific community, anchored by the comfort of the known, sought every possible avenue to explain away the ring as anything other than what it appeared to be. The human psyche possesses a profound resistance to the truly unique. It prefers a flawed version of a familiar truth over a perfect version of a new reality. The first and most convenient shield against the anomaly was the theory of the optical defect. In an era where astronomy was a tactile art of chemistry and glass, a smudge on a photographic plate was a common ghost. Critics suggested that a stray reflection within the telescope housing, a microscopic flaw in the emulsion, or a lingering chemical stain from the developing bath had created the illusion of the ring. They argued that Arthur Hoag had not found a new structure in the heavens, but had merely captured a phantom of his own equipment. This dismissal allowed the Hubble sequence to remain unchallenged, relegating the object to the status of a footnote, a curious artifact of a cold night on Mount Palomar that would surely vanish upon closer inspection. When subsequent plates confirmed the physical reality of the shape, the skepticism evolved into more sophisticated forms of denial. Hoag himself, in a display of scientific humility that bordered on self-effacement, initially proposed that the object might be a planetary nebula. This explanation sought to bring the ring back into the realm of the local and the understood. A planetary nebula, the glowing gaseous shroud of a dying sun within our own Milky Way, could easily take the form of a ring. However, as the spectroscopic data began to trickle in, this theory crumbled. The light coming from the ring was not the glowing gas of a nearby shell. It was the combined radiance of billions of stars. The object was not a local cloud, but a gargantuan structure located hundreds of millions of light-years away. Its scale was not measured in solar systems, but in tens of thousands of light-years. Even as the true distance became undeniable, the scientific establishment reached for one final, elegant escape hatch: the gravitational lens. This was the era when the predictions of Albert Einstein were being tested with increasing precision. A gravitational lens occurs when the immense mass of a foreground object warps the very fabric of space and time, acting like a cosmic magnifying glass that bends the light of a much more distant source. If a massive invisible galaxy sat directly between the Earth and a distant quasar, it could, in theory, smear the light of that distant object into a perfect circle known as an Einstein ring. To the astronomers of the 1970s, this was the most comforting solution. It meant that Hoag's object was not a strange new type of galaxy, but a mirage, a trick of perspective and geometry that left the laws of galactic architecture intact. For years, the tension between the photographic evidence and the refusal of the mind to believe what the eyes reported grew taut. Scientists pored over the light curves and the colour gradients, looking for the telltale signs of a lens. They expected to find that the blue ring and the golden core were actually two different objects at two vastly different distances, accidentally aligned by a 1 in a billion chance. Yet, the more they looked, the more the mirage theory failed to hold. The core and the ring shared the same systemic velocity. They were moving through the void together, locked in the same gravitational embrace. They were not two objects at different distances, but a single, coherent, and physically connected entity. This realization brought with it a profound sense of unease. To accept Hoag's object as a physical reality was to admit that a galaxy could exist as a detached ring and a core with a vast empty gulf between them. It was an admission that the universe could produce a structure that possessed no visible means of support, no arms to transport gas, no bars to anchor the rotation, no bridges to connect the past to the present. The skepticism of the mid-20th century was not born of malice, but of a deep-seated need for order. The ring was a chaotic element in a system that craved symmetry. As the decades turned and the 1980s approached, the object remained a lonely pioneer on the fringes of the known. It was a ghost that refused to be exorcised by the standard tools of physics. The tension of this era reflected a broader struggle in the history of science, the moment when the sheer weight of observation finally breaks the back of an established theory. The photographic plates did not lie, even if the theories of the day could not yet find the words to describe them. The ring continued to float in the deep dark of Serpens, a silent sapphire defiance of every drawer and category man had built to contain the stars. The era of dismissal was coming to an end, and the era of the mystery was about to begin in earnest. The heart of Hoag's object is a dense metropolis of ancient light, a sphere of gold that anchors the surrounding void. This central nucleus, measuring approximately 17,000 light-years across, is a place where time seems to have slowed to a crawl. Within this concentrated volume of space, the universe has packed nearly 100 billion stars, each a tiny, glowing ember in a grand celestial hearth. These are not the temperamental, short-lived giants of the galaxy's youth, but the steady, enduring suns that have survived for 10 billion years. They are the elders of the cosmos, suns that have burned through the bulk of their hydrogen fuel and now reside in the long yellow twilight of their existence. The light emanating from this core is warm and amber, lacking the harsh ultraviolet bite of younger stellar populations. It is the collective radiance of countless yellow dwarfs and swelling red giants, a population of stars that possesses a high metallicity, a scientific signature of having been born from the recycled remains of even older dead generations. This core is a relic, a surviving fragment of a previous cosmic epoch that has somehow remained intact while the rest of its original structure vanished or was transformed. It sits in the centre of the anomaly like a preserved artifact in a museum of the vacuum, heavy with the weight of eons and the silent history of a billion orbits. To look out from the edge of this golden city would be to face a desert of absolute darkness. The transition from the core to the surrounding gap is not gradual. It is a sharp, definitive boundary where the density of stars plummets to near zero. One moment, the sky is a solid wall of amber brilliance, and the next, it is a terrifying abyss. This nucleus is a fortress of stability, its spherical shape a testament to the relentless, inward pull of gravity that has smoothed out any irregularities over the course of billions of years. It lacks the turbulence of gas clouds and the chaotic motion of star-forming regions. Everything here is in a state of quiet, predictable equilibrium, a celestial clockwork that has been ticking since the early chapters of the universe. The isolation of this heart is its most haunting quality. In a standard elliptical galaxy, this dense centre would be the entire entity, or perhaps the beginning of a gradual thinning of stars that stretches out into the intergalactic medium. But here, the golden heart is a captive of its own mote. It is a nucleus without a cell, a brain without a body, floating in a gap of 30,000 light-years of nothingness. This void acts as a barrier that preserves the ancient character of the core, shielding it from the violent starbirth occurring in the distant ring. The stars within the core are unaware of the sapphire fire that encircles them. they continue their slow, majestic revolutions around the common centre of mass, oblivious to the fact that they are the heart of the most mysterious structure in the known heavens. The density of the stars at the very centre of this sphere defies the common experience of space. Near the middle of the nucleus, the distance between individual suns is measured in light weeks rather than light years. The night sky on a world nestled in this golden thicket would never know the true dark. Instead, the firmament would be a continuous glowing canopy of amber and gold, a ceiling of light that would drown out the rest of the universe. This is a place of ultimate permanence, where the laws of physics have crafted a sanctuary of age. Yet this stability is framed by the enigma of the gap. The core is a masterpiece of classical architecture, a perfect stoic globe that serves as the silent witness to whatever cataclysm or cosmic accident created the ring that now defines its existence. It is a nucleus of age, a heavy golden anchor in a sea of shadow, holding fast against the entropy of the deep. Beyond the 30,000 light-year gulf of the Great Silence, the landscape of the cosmos erupts into a shimmering crown of sapphire fury. This is the Outer Ring, a gargantuan circular river of light that spans nearly 75,000 light-years in diameter. If the central core is a testament to the endurance of the old, the ring is a violent celebration of the new. It is a wreath of rebirth, a luminous perimeter where the vacuum of space has been ignited by the sudden, fierce arrival of a new generation of suns. Here, the light does not whisper in the amber tones of the past. It screams in the brilliant ultraviolet hues of the present. The inhabitants of this ring are the titans of the stellar kingdom, massive, hot blue stars that burn with an intensity that is as brief as it is beautiful. These are Type O and Type B stars, celestial giants that possess dozens of times the mass of our own sun. They do not know the slow, measured pace of the golden stars in the heart of the galaxy. Instead, they are born in a state of frantic agitation, consuming their vast reservoirs of hydrogen fuel with a profligate hunger. They are the candles that burn at both ends, radiating a light so powerful that it pushes back against the very gravity that formed them. Their surfaces seethe at temperatures exceeding 30,000 degrees, casting a cold, electric glow across the void that makes the distant core look like a fading ember by comparison. This ring is a theatre of violence and creation. Within its swirling currents, massive clouds of molecular gas are being crushed and torn asunder, collapsing under their own weight to ignite the fires of new suns. The process is not peaceful. The radiation pressure from the existing blue giants scours the surrounding space, carving vast bubbles out of the interstellar medium and triggering further waves of starbirth at their edges. It is a feedback loop of light and energy, a self-sustaining ring of fire that has been burning for perhaps a few 100 million years, a mere heartbeat in the life of the universe. While the core has sat in silent contemplation for 10 billion years, the ring is a frantic newborn entity, a shimmering crown of stolen fire that has only recently draped itself around the ancient nucleus. The contrast between these two domains is one of the most striking sights in the known heavens. The Golden Heart is a tomb of ancient light, a place where the stories of the stars have already been written and are now being slowly forgotten. The Blue Ring is a maternity ward, a chaotic and vibrant nursery where the future is being forged in the heat of 1,000 supernovas. To stand in the gap between them would be to witness the two extremes of existence, the cold, stagnant stability of the centre and the fierce, short-lived intensity of the perimeter. The ring does not merely orbit the core, it encircles it like a protective barrier of light, a sapphire shield that separates the dying past from the infinite black of the intergalactic void. This blue perimeter is also a place of impending doom, because these massive stars burn with such ferocity, they are destined for a spectacular end. Within a few million years, the very stars that currently define the ring's brilliance will exhaust their fuel and collapse, detonating in supernova explosions that will outshine the entire galaxy for a brief blinding moment. The ring is a graveyard in the making, a structure built of beautiful doomed lamps that are destined to leave behind only heavy elements and dark remnants. Yet, for this brief window of cosmic time, they provide the galaxy with its most defining feature, a halo of electric blue that defies the darkness. The origin of the material that fuels this ring remains one of the great enigmas of the Serpens void. This gas, this stolen fire, must have come from somewhere beyond the original boundaries of the galaxy. It is fresh, pristine material that has been gathered from the vacuum and spun into this perfect circular loom. The ring represents a second act for a galaxy that should have been finished, a sudden infusion of youth into a system that was once as featureless and quiet as the most ancient elliptical clusters. It is a masterpiece of cosmic recycling, where the debris of the void has been transformed into a shimmering crown, turning a lonely relic into a celestial icon that haunts the dreams of those who look upon its impossible, detached beauty. In the presence of the ring, the golden core is no longer just a fading sun. It is the prize at the centre of a sapphire labyrinth, a nucleus of age enshrined in a wreath of newborn fire. The most unsettling feature of this celestial masterpiece is not the brilliance of its components, but the terrifying silence that exists between them. Separating the golden heart from the sapphire crown is a chasm of absolute nothingness, a gap that spans 30,000 light-years. To understand the scale of this vacuum, one must consider that this distance is greater than the entire radius of many conventional galaxies. It is a bridge of darkness so vast that the light of 1,000,000 suns could be lost within it. Yet across this great divide, the core and the ring remain locked in a perfect gravitational embrace. In the standard architecture of the cosmos, such a void is a physical impossibility, a structural failure that should have resulted in the disintegration of the system eons ago. In a typical spiral galaxy, the space between the centre and the outer edges is populated by a dense network of stars, gas, and dust. These are the spiral arms, the structural bones that act as conveyor belts, transporting material and energy throughout the galactic disk. In other systems, a central bar of stars provides a rigid spine, a gravitational anchor that regulates the flow of matter and maintains the integrity of the whole. These features are the skeleton of a galaxy, the visible manifestation of the forces that hold billions of tons of matter in a coherent shape. But in Hoag's object, the skeleton is missing. There are no arms to reach out from the core, no bars to bridge the distance, and no faint streams of stars to suggest a hidden connection. It is a wheel without spokes, a shimmering rim spinning around a hub that it never touches. This absence of structure creates a profound sense of isolation for both the centre and the perimeter. The golden stars of the nucleus are cut off from the fertile gas of the ring, doomed to age and die without the infusion of new material. Conversely, the blue giants of the ring are born on the edge of a precipice, staring inward at a heart they can never reach. The gap is a realm where the laws of star formation have been suspended. In this dark corridor, the density of matter drops so low that the vacuum becomes nearly perfect. There is no soot of interstellar dust to redden the light, no hydrogen clouds to spark the birth of a sun. It is a sterile moat, a celestial no-man's land where the very fabric of space seems to have been swept clean by an invisible hand. The survival of such a configuration is a miracle of gravitational balance. For the ring to maintain its perfect circularity across 30,000 light-years of empty space, the distribution of mass within the galaxy must be uncannily precise. If the ring moved too slowly, the inward pull of the golden core would drag the sapphire stars into a chaotic collision, ending the anomaly in a flash of fire. If it moved too quickly, the centrifugal force of its rotation would tear the ring asunder, scattering the blue giants into the intergalactic void like sparks from a grindstone. Instead, the two components exist in a state of perpetual precarious tension. They are bound together by an invisible thread of gravity that spans the darkness, a connection that is felt but never seen. The visual experience of this gap would be one of total, crushing desolation. A traveller positioned in the centre of this chasm would find themselves in the darkest place in the known universe. To one side, the golden core would loom like a distant, unreachable sun, a wall of amber light that provides no warmth. To the other side, the blue ring would stretch across the sky like a celestial rainbow, a thin ribbon of electric fire that offers no shelter. In every other direction, there would be only the infinite black mouth of the deep vacuum. There are no lonely stars here, no stray planets wandering the dark. It is a bridge of darkness that no star dares to cross, a void that serves as a physical manifestation of the mystery that defines the entire object. This missing skeleton forces a reconsideration of everything we understand about galactic stability. We are accustomed to seeing the universe through the lens of connectivity, stars linked by gas linked by gravity, and galaxies linked by the cosmic web. But Hoag's object presents a vision of the universe that is fragmented and detached. It suggests that beauty can exist in a state of total isolation, and that form does not always require a visible foundation. The gap is not merely a lack of matter, it is a presence in its own right, a silent, 30,000 light-year-long testament to the fact that the most powerful forces in the cosmos are often those that we cannot see. It is the void that defines the ring, the silence that gives the light its meaning, and the bridge of shadow that holds the entire impossible structure together in the face of the eternal night. To account for such a radical geometry, the mind seeks refuge in the mechanics of catastrophe. The most prominent explanation for the existence of this ring is the theory of a direct central collision, a grand cosmic drama where one galaxy is sacrificed to create the form of another. In this scenario, the past was not a state of quiet isolation, but a moment of extreme, transformative violence. A smaller, compact galaxy, acting as a leaden bullet of concentrated gravity, is seen hurtling through the deep toward the centre of a massive, gas-rich spiral. It does not strike from the side or graze the edges. It aims for the very heart of the larger system, punching through the central nucleus with the relentless momentum of a celestial projectile. As the intruder passes through the disk of the larger galaxy, the gravitational shockwaves are instantaneous and absolute. The impact creates a massive perturbation in the fabric of the host system, sending a ripple of energy outward from the point of contact. This is the stone dropped into the still pond of the interstellar medium, where the ripples are not made of water, but of compressed gas and displaced stars. This expanding density wave travels through the galaxy at hundreds of kilometers per second, acting as a titanic snowplow that gathers the cold, dormant hydrogen of the disk and crushes it into a concentrated perimeter. Under this immense pressure, the gas reaches a critical density and ignites, birthing the billions of blue giants that now form the shimmering ring. The collision theory provides a neat mechanical reason for the gap. The passing bullet has effectively cleared the inner regions of the galaxy, pushing the star-forming material into the distant suburbs. This narrative of violence offers a satisfying explanation for the symmetry of the object, yet it is haunted by a profound and chilling problem. A collision of such magnitude, a literal piercing of a galactic heart, should leave the surrounding space littered with the wreckage of the encounter. In every other instance where we witness the aftermath of a galactic passage, the evidence is undeniable and messy. There are tidal tails, long thin streamers of stars and gas that are pulled out of the host galaxy like taffy, stretching for hundreds of thousands of light-years into the void. There are warped disks, distorted cores, and chaotic clouds of debris that linger for billions of years as a testament to the struggle. Most importantly, the bullet galaxy itself should still be visible. A departing ghost seen somewhere in the vicinity of the crime scene, scarred and stripped of its own outer layers. Hoag's object, however, possesses an eerie and absolute cleanliness that contradicts this history of violence. When the most powerful telescopes are turned toward the space surrounding the ring, they find nothing but the pristine vacuum. There are no trailing scars, no bridges of wreckage, and no sign of a departing intruder. The galaxy sits in the Serpens void, with a poise and perfection that suggests it has never known the touch of an outsider. Its symmetry is too exact, its gap too empty, and its surroundings too silent. The core shows no sign of the gravitational trauma that a direct hit would inevitably cause. It remains a perfect, undisturbed sphere of ancient light, showing no displacement or distortion. This lack of cosmic debris presents a paradox that challenges the very foundations of the collision theory. If a smaller galaxy did indeed punch through this system, it did so with a surgical precision that defies the known laws of fluid dynamics and gravitational interaction. It would have to have been a ghost bullet, an object that could trigger a massive ripple of star formation and then vanish into the dark without leaving a single fingerprint. The object looks less like a victim of a hit and run and more like a structure that was grown in place, a masterpiece of quiet internal evolution rather than a product of external trauma. The cleanliness of the system suggests a piece that is almost more terrifying than the violence it replaces. It implies that the ring was not forced into existence by a sudden blow, but was perhaps gathered or spun over eons of slow, silent accumulation. The failure of the collision theory to account for the lack of wreckage forces the observer to look inward, toward the mechanics of the galaxy itself, or outward, toward even more exotic explanations. We are left with a structure that possesses the signature of a catastrophe, but the evidence of a sanctuary. The ring remains a perfect sapphire circle, and the gap remains a sterile moat, leaving the story of its birth locked in a past that has been meticulously scrubbed of all its sins. The mystery of the ring is not just in how it was built, but in how it managed to appear so untouched by the very forces that should have created it. The failure of external violence to explain the pristine nature of the ring directs the gaze toward a more subtle, internal transformation. This is the Bar instability hypothesis, a theory of celestial metamorphosis where the galaxy acts as its own architect and its own destroyer. In this version of the past, the system was not always a detached ring and a core. Instead, it began its life as a structured barred spiral, possessing a massive rigid spine of stars that cut through its centre like a beam of iron. This bar was the engine of the galaxy, a gravitational scaffolding that dictated the movement of every gas cloud and every wandering sun within its reach. A galactic bar is a dynamic and temperamental structure. It is born from the collective gravity of billions of stars, but it is not a permanent fixture. Over the course of several billion years, the bar acts as a cosmic pump. Through the relentless application of gravitational torques, it forces the interstellar gas, the very lifeblood of star formation, to migrate. In many galaxies, this gas is funneled inward to feed a central black hole or ignite a burst of birth in the nucleus. But under specific conditions of rotation and mass distribution, the bar can act as an ejector. It begins to push the gas outward, driving it away from the centre and toward the distant periphery of the disk. As this internal migration progresses, the galaxy undergoes a slow and profound hollowing. The central regions are systematically stripped of their fertile dust and cold hydrogen. The bar, having performed its task of moving the matter, begins to lose its own structural integrity. It is a victim of its own efficiency. The stars that composed the rigid spine begin to drift, their orbits becoming more circular and less elongated as the gravitational potential of the galaxy shifts. The bar does not explode or vanish in a sudden flash, it dissolves. It melts back into the background of the galaxy, leaving behind a spherical core of old red and yellow stars that have survived the process. The gas that was pushed outward does not simply dissipate into the intergalactic void. It reaches a point of orbital resonance, a celestial boundary where the outward pressure of the dissolving bar meets the inward pull of the galaxy's total mass. At this precise distance, approximately 30,000 light-years from the centre, the gas accumulates in a dense circular reservoir. This is the birth of the ring. With the sudden concentration of so much raw material, the fires of star formation ignite with a ferocity that defines the sapphire crown we see today. The galaxy has effectively turned itself inside out, discarding its skeletal bar to create a luminous perimeter. What remains is a ghost of the galaxy's former structural integrity. The centre is no longer a vibrant hub of activity, but a hollow shell of its previous self. It is a nucleus that has abandoned its bones to create a crown. This process of internal metamorphosis explains the eerie cleanliness of the system. There is no cosmic wreckage because the intruder was never an external force. It was the galaxy's own internal architecture. The gap is not a scar from a collision, but a cleared zone, a region of space that was swept clean by the very bar that once defined it. This vision of galactic evolution is one of tragic beauty. It suggests that Hoag's object is a system that has reached a state of ultimate refinement through self-cannibalization. It has used its own mass to sculpt a shape of perfect symmetry, sacrificing its complexity for a singular, haunting elegance. The bar is gone, leaving only the ancient core and the newborn ring as the two surviving witnesses to a structural history that has been erased by time. the galaxy stands as a finished masterpiece, a wheel that has shed its spokes to prove that gravity can maintain a form even when the foundation has been dissolved into the dark. It is a transformation that requires no outside intervention, only the slow, relentless passage of eons and the inherent instability of a spine made of light. The universe is not a perfect vacuum, but a tapestry woven with thin, invisible threads of primordial matter. Between the grand, luminous cities of stars, there exists a vast, dark ocean of cold hydrogen gas, a reservoir of the raw materials of creation that has remained largely untouched since the first minutes of the cosmos. In this alternative history of the ring, the golden heart of the galaxy acts not as a victim of a collision or a self-destroying machine, but as a silent scavenger. It is an ancient predator of the deep, a gravitational well that has spent the last several billion years reaching out into the nothingness with a subtle, persistent hunger, siphoning the invisible riches of the intergalactic void. This process of accretion is a masterpiece of celestial stealth. It begins when the ancient elliptical core, drifting through a particularly dense filament of the cosmic web, begins to exert a faint but relentless pull on a passing cloud of neutral hydrogen. This cloud may be tens of thousands of light-years across, a gargantuan ghost of gas that lacks the density to ignite its own stars. Under the steady influence of the core's gravity, the gas is not pulled into a direct fiery plunge toward the centre. Instead, due to the conservation of angular momentum, it begins to spiral inward, slowly flattening into a wide, rotating disk that encircles the ancient nucleus like a dark, cold shroud. For eons, this accumulation continues in total silence. The galaxy is effectively inhaling the void, drawing in millions of solar masses of gas without the violence of a collision or the chaos of a merger. It is a process so slow and subtle that it leaves no trace of the theft in the surrounding space. There are no tidal tails, no warped shells of light, and no displaced stars. The intergalactic medium is simply thinned, its contents quietly transferred to the waiting embrace of the galaxy. As the gas settles into a stable orbit at a distance of 30,000 light-years from the heart, it begins to cool and condense. The transformation from invisible gas to a shimmering crown of light is the final act of this long, slow weaving. Once the accumulated hydrogen reaches a critical density, the internal pressures within the gas clouds become too great to resist. The dark shroud begins to fragment into thousands of individual nurseries. In a sudden, coordinated burst of activity that spans the entire perimeter, the fires of starbirth ignite. This is the moment the galaxy wraps itself in a stolen garment of light. The cold, primordial breath of the void is transformed into the fierce, sapphire radiance of billions of newborn suns. The ring is not a part of the original body, but a new cloak, a second skin of fire draped over the shoulders of an ancient king. This theory of accretion explains why the ring appears so detached, and why the gap remains so profoundly empty. The gas was never part of the core to begin with. It was gathered from the outside and held at a distance by the balance of its own rotational speed. The gap is the boundary where the core's influence is strong enough to hold the ring in place, but not strong enough to pull it into a final destructive embrace. It is a structural standoff, a moat created by the physics of orbit and the slow accumulation of matter over the vast scales of cosmic time. The beauty of this scavenger's tale lies in its peacefulness. It suggests that the most spectacular structures in the universe do not always require the hammer and anvil of catastrophe. Instead, they can be grown through the patient, persistent collection of the vacuum's hidden treasures. Hoag's object becomes a symbol of cosmic endurance and renewal, an old dying system that found a way to rejuvenate itself by breathing in the very nothingness that surrounded it. The sapphire ring is the evidence of this successful hunt, a luminous trophy made of stolen fire that proves even the most isolated galaxy can find the means to clothe itself in glory once again. The theft is complete. The evidence has vanished into the dark, and all that remains is the breathtaking sight of an ancient heart wearing a crown of newborn stars, a testament to the quiet power of gravity to build masterpieces out of the invisible. The void within Hoag's object is not merely a lack of matter, it is a window. As modern instruments, most notably the Hubble Space Telescope, turned their unblinking gaze toward the Serpens constellation. They sought to map the emptiness of the 30,000 light-year gap with unprecedented precision. What they found was a revelation that pushed the boundaries of cosmic coincidence into the realm of the surreal. Tucked into the upper right quadrant of the dark mote, visible only through the clear path provided by the galaxy's own hollowing, sits a second ring galaxy. It is a miniature replica, a distant echo of the primary anomaly, appearing as a perfect nested circle of light within the larger frame. This discovery transforms the object from a singular mystery into a celestial Russian doll. The second galaxy, known as a Hoag-type object in its own right, is located billions of light-years further into the deep, existing in a completely different epoch of cosmic history. Yet, by a chance so slim it borders on the mathematically impossible, it has aligned itself perfectly within the gap of its foreground cousin. This is a 1 in a billion alignment, a stacking of rarities that mocks the statistical expectations of the universe. In a cosmos where ring galaxies represent less than 0.1% of all known structures, to find two such objects occupying the same tiny patch of the sky is a statistical haunting. The second ring appears as a ghost haunting a ghost. It is smaller and fainter, its light reddened by the immense distance it has travelled across the expanding vacuum, but its form is unmistakable. It possesses the same golden heart and the same detached sapphire perimeter, proving that the architecture of Hoag's object is not a unique accident, but a repeatable, albeit incredibly rare, phenomenon of physics. Seeing the two objects together creates a sense of vertigo, a realization that the universe is capable of layering its secrets with a precision that feels almost deliberate. It is as if the first galaxy was designed as a lens, a frame specifically constructed to highlight the existence of its distant twin. This nested mystery forces a reconsideration of the scale of the unknown. If we can find two such objects perfectly aligned by mere chance, how many more of these sapphire crowns are scattered throughout the quadrillions of cubic light-years that we have yet to survey? The second ring serves as a silent witness to the sheer diversity of the vacuum. It suggests that for every law we have codified and every category we have established, there are outliers and anomalies waiting to be discovered in the gaps of our knowledge. The alignment is a reminder that the universe is not just vast, but also playful, capable of creating coincidences that challenge our understanding of probability and form. The presence of the second ring also provides a crucial piece of evidence against the theory of the gravitational lens. Because the distant galaxy maintains its own distinct, undistorted ring shape, it proves that the foreground galaxy is not warping the light of the background into a circle. They are two separate physical entities, each a masterpiece of detached symmetry. The sight of them together, the great golden heart of the primary object and the tiny glowing circle of the secondary, offers a perspective on the depth of the heavens that few other images can provide. It is a visual journey through time and space, where the eye travels across 30,000 light-years of a local void, only to find itself staring across billions of light-years at a mirror image of the same mystery. This alignment is a gift to the human spirit of inquiry. It provides a sense of wonder that transcends the cold mathematics of the data. To look through the gap of Hoag's object and see another ring is to recognize that we are observing a cosmic performance of immense complexity and beauty. We are looking through a keyhole into the deep past, finding that the same strange and beautiful patterns repeat themselves across the eons. The second ring remains there, a tiny glowing jewel in the dark mote, a reminder that the more we look into the silence of the universe, the more we find it whispering back in a language of light and symmetry that we're only beginning to translate. It is a nested miracle, a ghost within a ghost, standing as a testament to the infinite layers of the unknown. In the 21st century, the mystery of the ring has moved beyond the realm of photographic plates and into the precise mathematical world of the Gaia mission. This space-based observatory, mapping the motions of stars with a clarity that was once a dream, has revealed that Hoag's object is even more isolated than we previously dared to believe. It stands alone in a vast empty parish of the universe, a region of space where no other galaxies venture for tens of millions of light-years in any direction. This isolation is a critical clue. It suggests that the object has not had a significant gravitational encounter with a neighbour for billions of years. It is a hermit of the deep, a system that has been allowed to evolve in total solitude, far from the chaotic tug-of-war of galactic clusters. This profound loneliness makes the stability of the sapphire ring even more baffling. As deep space surveys measure the rotational velocity of those massive blue stars, they find them moving at speeds that should, by all rights, tear the ring asunder. The centrifugal force of their flight through the vacuum is so great that the visible mass of the golden core is insufficient to hold them in orbit. Without an additional unseen source of gravity, the ring would have scattered into the void eons ago, leaving the heart as a lonely, featureless ball of yellow light. This is where the hidden scaffolding of the universe reveals its silent influence. Enveloping the entire structure is a gargantuan halo of dark matter, an invisible guardian that acts as the true anchor of the system. This substance, which does not emit, absorb, or reflect light, makes up the vast majority of the galaxy's mass. It is the silent partner in the dance of the ring and the core. The data suggests that this dark matter halo is perfectly spherical and incredibly dense, providing the gravitational glue that prevents the sapphire stars from flying off into the night. In the presence of Hoag's object, dark matter is no longer a theoretical abstraction. It is a physical necessity, the only thing standing between the beauty of the ring and the entropy of total dissolution. The galaxy thus becomes a laboratory of the extreme, a place where the most elusive forces in physics are forced to manifest their power in a visible form. Because the object is so clean and so isolated, it provides a unique environment for testing our understanding of gravity. There are no competing forces from nearby galaxies to muddy the data, and no chaotic clouds of gas to obscure the view. We are left with a pure interaction between the visible light of the stars and the invisible weight of the dark matter. The ring is a tracer, a luminous indicator that outlines the shape and strength of a gravitational field that would otherwise remain hidden from human eyes. This invisible architecture provides the missing skeleton that the eyes could not find. While there are no bars or arms made of stars, there is a foundation made of the unknown. The dark matter halo provides the structural integrity that allows a wheel without spokes to spin for billions of years without breaking. It is a reminder that the universe we see, the shimmering stars, the glowing nebulae, the golden cores, is merely the foam on the surface of a much deeper and more mysterious ocean. The true strength of the galaxy lies in what is not there, in the silent, cold mass that holds the light in its hands. The isolation of the object also suggests that its formation was an event of incredible rarity, a convergence of conditions that could only occur in the quietest corners of the cosmos. In a more crowded region of space, the fragile balance between the ring, the core, and the dark matter halo would have been disrupted long ago by the passing of other giants. But here, in the Serpens void, the anomaly has been allowed to persist, a masterpiece of physics preserved by the very emptiness that surrounds it. As we gather more data from the furthest reaches of the sky, Hoag's object continues to serve as a sentinel, a silent witness to the fact that the most important parts of the universe are often those that refuse to be seen. It stands as a testament to the hidden order of the vacuum, a place where the scaffolding of the deep is revealed through the impossible grace of a sapphire crown. The passage of time is the ultimate architect, but it is also the final executioner of form. The sapphire crown that currently defines Hoag's object is a fleeting masterpiece, a temporary ignition in the long, dark history of the Serpens void. Because the massive blue suns of the ring are spendthrifts of their nuclear inheritance, their brilliance is a herald of their own demise. Within a few million years, a mere blink in the lifespan of the central core, the ferocity of the ring will begin to falter. One by one, the titans will exhaust their hydrogen, swelling into bloated red supergiants before collapsing in the violent convulsions of supernova explosions. These final flares of light will briefly outshine the entire galaxy, but they are the death rattles of the perimeter. As the fires of the blue giants go out, the ring will undergo a grim transformation. The vibrant electric light will fade, leaving behind a cold, dark circle of cinders. What was once a shimmering wreath of rebirth will become a graveyard of neutron stars, black holes, and cooling white dwarfs. These remnants will continue to orbit the golden heart, held in place by the invisible hand of the dark matter halo, but they will no longer be visible to the telescopes of distant worlds. The galaxy will return to a state of shadow, its impossible geometry hidden from the light, a phantom wheel spinning in the eternal night. The 30,000 light-year gap will remain, but it will no longer be a mote of silence between two fires. It will be a void within a void. The golden heart, though far more enduring, is not immortal. Over the next 10 billion years, the amber suns of the nucleus will continue their slow, measured burn, gradually shifting from yellow to a deep, weary red. The city of stars will dim as the fuel of the elders is spent. Eventually, even the most resilient red dwarfs will flicker out, turning the central sphere into a cluster of black husks. The symmetry that once challenged the foundations of human physics will succumb to the relentless tide of entropy. Gravitational perturbations from the distant members of the local group, or the slow internal evaporation of stars from the system, will eventually warp the perfect circle. The ring will fray, the core will dissipate, and the masterpiece will dissolve into a chaotic cloud of dust and dark remnants, indistinguishable from the background of the vacuum. The lesson of this anomaly is one of profound humility. Hoag's object serves as a reminder that the universe is under no obligation to be permanent or to be understood. It is a structure born of a specific rare convergence of forces, perhaps a singular accident of accretion or a unique internal metamorphosis that created a moment of absolute beauty in a universe of chaos. It tells us that the laws of physics are flexible enough to allow for exceptions that defy our most cherished taxonomies. We are fortunate to exist in the brief window of cosmic time when the ring is still bright and the core is still golden. We are the observers of a performance that began long before the first humans looked at the sky, and will conclude long after the last star in our own galaxy has turned to ash. Our quest to explain the ring is not merely an exercise in mathematics or stellar evolution. It is a manifestation of the human need to find order in the infinite. We look at the detached halo and the golden heart, and we see a reflection of our own desire for symmetry and meaning. Yet, the object remains indifferent to our theories. It does not care if it is a product of a collision, a dissolved bar, or a stolen cloud of gas. It simply exists, a silent witness to the majesty of the unknown. The anomaly proves that the most beautiful things in the cosmos are often the results of accidents we cannot yet calculate, and that the vacuum is capable of poetry that transcends our highest equations. As the light of the ring eventually fails and the golden heart cools into the dark, the memory of this structure will persist only as long as there are minds to record it. It is a ghost that haunts the Serpens void, a reminder that for all our telescopes and all our grand sequences, the universe remains a place of profound and beautiful secrets. We end our journey where we began, staring into that central amber nucleus. It sits as a heavy, stoic anchor against the encroaching night, a nucleus of age enshrined in a fading wreath of fire. The ring continues its slow, majestic rotation, a perfect circle of light suspended in the cold, eternal vacuum, a silent testament to the fact that even in the deepest dark, the universe is capable of building a crown.